The galaxy was not at peace. For centuries, thousands of alien civilizations had risen and fallen, but none had caused as much fear as the Zerath Dominion. They were a species of tall, armored beings with 4 piercing eyes and voices that rumbled like thunder. Their fleets were unmatched, their armies endless, and their will unshakable. Whenever the Zerath wanted a new world, they took it. Across the stars, people whispered the same truth. No fleet can stand against the Dominion. The Dominion had earned that reputation the hard way, from the glowing nebula systems of the Cruel to the frozen colonies of the Hishari. Every fleet that tried to fight them was shattered. Hundreds of ships burned in space while the Dominion kept marching forward. The Galactic Council, a gathering of old and proud species, had begged each other for aid, but unity never came. Some were too afraid. Others secretly believed the Dominion would never target them. So, one by one, the stars went dark. To the Zerath, war was simple. They struck fast, broke the defenders, and left survivors only to tell the tale. Fear was their greatest weapon, and it worked well. When a Zerath fleet arrived, many worlds surrendered before the first shot was even fired. But far away, on a small blue planet ignored by most of the galaxy, the humans were watching. Earth's place in the galaxy humanity had only been part of the wider galaxy for 50 years. Compared to the ancient empires, they were young and unimportant. The Council called them curious newcomers, and the Zerath did not even bother to list them among their enemies. To many, Earth was just a stubborn little world on the edge of known space. Its people were strange, restless, and always inventing things faster than anyone thought possible. Some alien diplomats had joked, "Humans try to run before they can walk." But Earth's history was one of survival. Long before they reached the stars, humans had fought wars, endured disasters, and lived on a planet that tested them every day. Where other species feared danger, humans adapted. Where others saw the impossible, humans tried anyway. And quietly, as the Zerath crushed one fleet after another, humanity prepared. The fall of another fleet. In the council chambers, the air was heavy with despair. Holoscreens showed the latest defeat. The combined fleet of the Vishari and the Clear had been annihilated in less than an hour. 500 ships had gone into battle. Not one came back. Ambassador Theric of the Vishari stood, trembling. They shattered us as if we were made of paper. Our finest carriers, our strongest weapons, it did not matter. Counselors muttered in fear. The Zerath were too strong, too fast, too ruthless. A human representative, Commander Leon Ortega, stood silently at the edge of the chamber. Her dark eyes studied the images, her hands folded behind her back. She listened as the other species despaired, but she said nothing. No one noticed her leave. The Zerath's plan, while the Council drowned in fear, the Zerath High Command made their next move. Their target was simple: the Sol system. A lesser strategist might have ignored Earth, but to the Zerath, leaving even a small world untouched was weakness. "Every spark must be crushed," declared Overlord Zir, their supreme commander. "No embers may remain to grow into flame." The fleet assembled, 200 warships, armed with weapons that had burned countless civilizations. They moved, with the confidence of conquerors who had never known true defeat. To them, Sul was already theirs. The human secret on Earth. The news spread quickly. The Zerath fleet was coming. Panic rippled through the public. Families prepared for evacuation, shelters were dug deep underground, and military ships rushed to defensive positions. But amid the fear, there was also resolve. Humanity had been expecting this day. Deep in orbit, hidden behind the shadow of the moon, floated a ship that no alien had ever seen. It was called the UNS Valiant. The Valiant was not like other human ships. Where most alien vessels were graceful and slender, the Valiant was massive, brutal, and shaped for war. Its hull was layered with experimental alloys, forged in secret for years. Its cannons were larger than anything the Council had ever approved. To the few who knew of its existence, the ship was more than metal. It was humanity's gamble, the answer to the question no one else dared ask. What if we must stand alone? Captain Elias Wardat. The heart of the Valiant stood its captain, Elias Ward. He was not a politician, not a diplomat, but a soldier who had seen too many wars. His hair was silver at the edges, his voice calm but firm, and his eyes carried the weight of choices that could change the future. He stood on the command deck, looking out at the stars. His crew waited quietly, their hands on consoles, their eyes fixed on him. "The Zirath are coming," Ward said at last. His voice was steady, without fear. 200 ships, maybe more. They expect us to surrender." Silence filled the bridge. Everyone knew what 200 Zirath warships could do. Ward's lips curved into a grim smile. "But we are not going to surrender. We will hold the line. Even if it costs us everything, humanity will show them that we do not break." The crew straightened. Fear turned into steel in their hearts. First contact with the fleet. When the Zirath armada arrived at the edge of Sol, they saw Earth's defenses. A few cruisers, scattered stations, and a single massive warship waiting in silence. The Zirath commanders laughed. To them, this was no battle. It was an execution. They hailed the humans, their deep voices echoing across comms. "This system belongs to the Zirath Dominion. Surrender, and your people will be spared the fire." Captain Ward listened, then gave his answer. His words were simple, yet carried across every channel, heard by friend and foe alike. "This is Earth. We do not surrender." The line went silent. Then the Dominion opened fire. The first volley. The stars lit up with energy, blasts as 200 Zirath ships unleashed their fury. Firepower that had destroyed whole armadas poured into the human warship. But when the flames cleared, the UNS Valiant was still there. Its shields had held. Its hull glowed, but it did not fall. On the bridge, the crew cheered. Ward raised his hand for silence. "Target their lead ship," he ordered. The Valiant's cannons roared. Beams of searing light and kinetic slugs the size of buildings ripped through space. The Zirath flagship shuddered and exploded in a blaze that shook the enemy formation. For the first time in centuries, a Zirath fleet saw something they had never known before. Fear. The beginning of defiance. As the burning wreckage of the flagship drifted in space, the Valiant turned its guns toward the next enemy ship. The battle had only begun. Across the galaxy, no one yet knew. The Council still believed Earth would fall like all the others. The Dominion thought victory was certain. But on that day, in the shadow of the sun, one human ship stood alone against the invincible enemy. The Dominion fleet should have been celebrating. Every other battle had ended in quick victories, with enemy ships turning to ash in their wake. But this time was different. 200 Zirath warships had fired together. Yet one human ship still stood. The UNS Valiant had not broken. Instead, it had destroyed their flagship with a single volley. For the Zirath, this was unthinkable. For the humans, it was only the beginning. The alien shock on. The command ship of the Zirath Second Fleet, Commander Kor, slammed his armored fist against the console. His 4 glowing eyes narrowed as he stared at the wreckage of the flagship, floating across the screen. "This is impossible," he growled. "No single vessel can endure our firepower." A younger officer, nervous and trembling, dared to speak. "Commander, perhaps this ship is not like others. Its defenses—" Kor cut him off with a snarl. "It is still only one ship. Crush it." The order spread across the fleet. Weapons recharged. Formations shifted. The Zirath were determined to erase the shame of losing their flagship. But deep inside, for the first time in their long history of conquest, a shadow of doubt stirred. The crew of the Valiant inside the Valiant. Tension was thick but steady. The bridge glowed with blue light from consoles. Crew members worked in silence, their training keeping panic away. At the center stood Captain Elias Ward, calm and watchful. His voice was steady, the anchor holding his crew together. "Damage report," he asked. "Shields holding at 67%, replied Lieutenant Rana Patel, her hands flying across her station. "No hull breach. Weapons fully operational." Ward nodded. "Good. Let's show them what this ship can do." The crew exchanged quick glances. They all knew they were outnumbered 200 to 1. They all knew the odds. Yet not one of them spoke of retreat. They had trained for this moment. The Valiant had been built for this moment. A weapon forged in secret. The story of the Valiant began long before this battle. Years earlier, when humanity had joined the Galactic Council, they had studied the wars raging across the stars. They saw how other species built ships for speed, for elegance, or for trade. But humans noticed something else. No one built ships to truly survive. Aliens believed. War was about overwhelming numbers, fleets clashing until one side broke. But humanity thought differently. Humans had survived on a dangerous planet by being clever, by adapting, by refusing to give up even when outnumbered. So Earth began a secret project. They called it Project Iron Sky. For 20 years, engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked in hidden facilities on the far side of the moon. They combined human stubbornness with every scrap of technology they could learn from the galaxy. They experimented with armor that could bend energy, with weapons that fired at ranges no alien thought possible, with reactors that burned hotter than any starship had used before. When it was finished, they gave it one name: the Valiant. It was not just a ship. It was a challenge. The second attack. The Zerath charged again. Hundreds of glowing blasts streaked across the void, slamming into the Valiant's shields. The ship shook, lights flickering, but the hull held. Shields at 40%, Patel called out. Ward did not hesitate. Target their flanking cruisers, fire at will. The Valiant's main guns roared. Twin beams of searing energy cut through the blackness of space. One Zerath cruiser erupted in fire. Then another. Missiles launched, streaking toward enemy ships with precision-guided speed. Explosions lit the void like falling stars. The crew cheered as enemy after enemy was destroyed. But Ward raised his hand. Stay focused. We are not done. Across the galaxy, news traveled fast. In hidden networks, on smuggler ships, in the shadowed corners of occupied worlds, whispers spread. A single human ship stands against the Dominion. The Galactic Council, watching through intercepted feeds, could not believe what they saw. Ambassador Theric of the Vishari shook his head. It cannot be. One ship cannot fight 200. Commander Ortega, the human representative, allowed herself a small smile. Then perhaps it is not just a ship. For the first time in years, hope stirred in the galaxy. The enemy hesitates on. The Zerath command ship. Commander Kor snarled as more of his vessels exploded. His pride burned. Why do you hesitate? He roared at his officers. It is one ship. Destroy them. But the officers avoided his gaze. They had seen the Valiant's weapons. They had seen their comrades' ships vanish in fire. And deep in their hearts they began to wonder, what if we cannot win? The Dominion had never asked that question before. Now fear spread like a disease. The human spirit, inside the Valiant, the crew worked tirelessly. Sparks flew from panels. The deck trembled with each impact, but no one faltered. Ensign Malik, only 19, whispered to himself as he manned the navigation console. Hold the line, hold the line. Chief Engineer Harper, her hands blackened, with grease, shouted over comms. Reactor running hot, Captain, but she can take it. Ward listened, his voice calm. She'll hold. We'll all hold. The crew believed him. They believed in the ship. They believed in each other. And most of all, they believed in humanity's will to fight, a message to the Dominion. Another Zerath battleship exploded. Ward opened the comm channel. His voice, calm and strong, carried across the void to every ship in the enemy fleet. You call yourselves invincible. You believe no one can resist you. But you are wrong. This is Earth. This is humanity. And we do not surrender. The message echoed across the battlefield. On occupied worlds, hidden radios picked it up. In dark cells where prisoners of the Dominion waited for death, the words reached them. And for the first time in generations, slaves of the Dominion whispered a single word with hope. Freedom. The turning of the battle, the Zerath fired again, desperate and angry. But their shots grew less organized, their formations breaking. The Valiant pressed forward, cutting through the enemy line like a blade. One by one, Dominion ships fell. Some tried to flee. Their pride shattered. But the Valiant chased them down. At last, only a handful remained. Commander Kor, humiliated and furious, ordered a retreat. It was the first retreat in Zerath history. As the enemy ships jumped into hyperspace, the battlefield grew silent. Wreckage drifted across the void, glowing embers of once proud warships. And in the center of it all, scarred but unbroken, the UNS Valiant stood victorious. A symbol of defiance on Earth. Cheers erupted. Across colonies, celebrations began. Humanity had done the impossible. They had defied the invincible. But Captain Ward did not celebrate. He stood on the bridge watching the wreckage. His crew smiled, but he remained calm. This was only the beginning, he said quietly. They will come again, stronger, angrier, but we will be ready. The crew nodded. They understood. The battle was won, but the war had just begun. The galaxy watches, across the stars. Species long enslaved or defeated lifted their heads. If one human ship could stand against the Dominion, perhaps they too could rise. In secret, rebellions began to stir. Messages spread from world to world. The humans fight. The humans do not bow. The Zerath Dominion had ruled through fear, but now fear was breaking. And at the heart of it all was one ship, one crew, and one world that refused to surrender. The Valiant had proven itself. It was not just a warship. It was a symbol. The battlefield was quiet now. Wreckage drifted across the black sea of space, burning fragments of Zerath warships, broken pieces of armor, glowing trails of shattered reactors. The UNS Valiant floated among the ruins like a lone fortress, scarred but still alive. For the first time in living memory, the Zerath Dominion had retreated. But no one on the Valiant celebrated for long. They all knew what was coming. The calm. Before the storm on the bridge, Captain Elias Ward stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes studied the broken battlefield. His crew sat at their stations, some smiling faintly, others still, shaking from adrenaline. Lieutenant Patel broke the silence. We survived. We actually survived. Ward gave her a small nod. We did. But the Dominion will not let this stand. They will return, and next time, they will come in force. The crew's smiles faded. They all knew he was right. The Zerath did not forgive defeat. They would bring more ships, more firepower, and more fury. Chief Engineer Harper's voice came over the comm. Captain, hull integrity is stable, but we're running hot. If they come back too soon, we'll be in trouble. Ward nodded. Do what you can, Harper. We'll buy the time. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. On no hidden channels, smugglers carried the story. In secret taverns, refugees told the tale. Across occupied worlds, slaves whispered it in the dark. One human ship stood against them. Valiant, they called it. They destroyed the Zerath, flagship. For species that had only known despair, the story was like a spark in dry wood. Hope, something long forgotten, began to burn again. In the council chambers. Disbelief turned to chaos. Ambassadors shouted at one another, demanding explanations. Some insisted it was a trick. Others claimed humanity had built a forbidden weapon. But deep down, even they felt the truth. Something had changed. And on the homeworld of the Zerath Dominion, fury boiled. The wrath of the Zerath overlord. Zir stood in the throne chamber of the Dominion, surrounded by towering generals. His four eyes glowed like burning coals, and his voice shook the air. One human ship has defied us. One ship has broken the Dominion's pride. His words echoed across the chamber. This insult will not stand. The generals bowed their heads in shame. No one dared to speak. Zir raised his clawed hand. Gather the fleet. Not 200 ships. Not 500. We will send 1,000. The humans will be crushed, their planet burned, their people enslaved, and their ship, this Valiant, will be torn apart before their eyes. 1,000 ships. The order spread like wildfire through the Dominion. The galaxy shivered. Preparing for the next battle back on the Valiant, Captain Ward called his crew to the briefing room. A holographic map of the Sol system glowed in the air, showing Earth, Mars, and the scattered human colonies. The Dominion will return, Ward said simply. And they will not send a small force this time. We must be ready. Commander Ortega leaned forward. Our defenses around Earth are thin. If they break through us, millions will die. Ward nodded. Which is why we cannot let them break through. The crew studied the map. There were few options. Humanity's fleets were small compared to the Dominion. Their colonies were spread out and vulnerable. The only real defense was the Valiant. It was a heavy truth. One ship stood between Earth and destruction. The clash begins days later. Sensors lit up. The Dominion had returned. 1,000 ships appeared at the edge of the Sol system, their formation stretching like a wall of fire across the stars. Battleships, cruisers, carriers, all ready to erase Earth from existence. On the bridge of the Valiant, silence fell. Lieutenant Patel whispered, "There are too many." Ward's voice was calm. "Numbers don't win wars. Will does. Ready all weapons." The Valiant moved forward, alone against a sea of enemies. The Dominion commander sent a message across every channel. "Humanity will burn." Ward replied with 3 words. "We are ready." The battle began. Fire and steel. The void lit up as thousands of weapons fired. Energy beams, plasma bolts, missile storms, all streaked toward the Valiant. The ship shook violently, shields flashing, bright under the onslaught. Sparks rained from consoles. Crew members held on tight. "Shields at 50%, Patel shouted. "Hold the line," Ward barked. The Valiant returned fire. Its cannons roared, tearing through space. A Zirath cruiser exploded in a blinding flash, then another, and another. The crew cheered, but the Dominion ships closed in. For every enemy destroyed, 10 more pressed forward. The bridge shook again. "Shields at 30%. Reinforce the forward array," Ward commanded. The crew worked feverishly. The ship groaned under the strain. The human advantage. The Zirath believed they had already won. They had always relied on fear, on overwhelming numbers, on crushing opponents before resistance could form. But against humanity, it was different. Humans had grown up fighting against impossible odds. From ancient battles with swords and shields to wars fought across continents, they had always faced challenges greater than themselves. And they had always endured. The Valiant's crew fought with that spirit. Every time a console sparked, they repaired it. Every time shields faltered, they reinforced them. Every time the ship was struck, they refused to give up. The Zirath fired with strength. The humans fought with will. And slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. Inspiration across the stars. The battle was broadcast across hidden channels, intercepted by spies and resistance groups. Billions watched in awe as one human ship fought against 1,000. On a mining world enslaved by the Dominion, a young alien girl watched the feed in secret. Her eyes widened as the Valiant fired back, refusing to fall. For the first time in her life, she whispered, "Maybe we can be free." On a council world, old leaders leaned forward, stunned. The humans had done what none of them dared. They fought, and they fought without fear. The legend of the Valiant grew with every volley. Breaking the line. After hours of relentless battle, the Valiant pushed forward, breaking through the enemy formation. Explosions lit the void as Zirath ships fell one after another. On the bridge, the crew was exhausted, but their eyes burned with fire. "Captain," Patel said, "we can't hold forever." Ward's jaw tightened. "We don't need to hold forever. We just need to break their spirit." And then it happened. The Zirath line faltered. Ships began to scatter. The unthinkable had happened again. The Dominion was hesitating. The 1st Retreat Commander Corps, once so confident, now shook with rage. His fleet, the pride of the Dominion, was breaking apart before his eyes. "This is madness," he roared. Fall back! Fall back! The order spread. Thousands of ships turned, retreating into hyperspace. On the battlefield, silence returned. The Valiant floated, battered but alive, surrounded by burning wreckage. Humanity had done it again. The aftermath on Earth. Celebrations shook the cities. Across colonies, people wept with joy. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. But Captain Ward did not smile. He stood at the viewing window watching the debris drift. They will return, he said softly. Stronger. Angrier. This war is only beginning. Commander Ortega stepped beside him. Then we'll be ready. We've shown the galaxy what humans can do. We won't fight alone next time. Ward nodded slowly. He hoped she was right. A new legend across the galaxy. The name of the Valiant spread. To some, it was a miracle. To others, it was a symbol. To the Zirath, it was a nightmare. One ship had faced 1,000 and lived. The void of space was filled with silence, broken only by the drifting fires of shattered ships. The UNS Valiant floated amid the wreckage, a scarred fortress that had defied the galaxy's most feared force. Humanity had survived, but the battle was far from over. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, staring at the aftermath. His crew worked tirelessly, repairing damage, scanning for survivors, and preparing for the inevitable return of the Zirath. Though the enemy had retreated, Ward knew the Dominion would come back stronger. They always did. Yet something had changed. Humanity had sent a clear message. They would not bow. Spreading hope across the galaxy, news of the Valiant's victories began to spread. It started with whispers on occupied worlds where resistance groups listened to smuggled transmissions. One human ship destroyed 1,000 Zirath vessels, they murmured, disbelief and hope mixing in their voices. On mining colonies and hidden settlements, oppressed species listened with rapt attention. Children peered out of safe shelters as their parents repeated the story of humanity's courage. For decades, fear had ruled their lives, but now something new stirred. Belief. The humans, a miner whispered. They fight. They do not surrender. Perhaps we can too, the Galactic Council reacts. In the council chambers, chaos reigned. Ambassadors shouted, argued, and demanded explanations. How could one human ship survive against the Zirath Dominion? It defied every calculation, every expectation, every strategy ever recorded. Commander Ortega, representing Earth, watched calmly from her seat. She had expected disbelief. She had expected arguments. But the Council's reactions went further. They were panicked. Ambassador Theric slammed his fist on the table. If humanity can stand against the Dominion alone, what hope do the rest of us have? We have lived in complacency, thinking we were safe. We are weak. Ortega leaned forward, her voice firm. Weakness is not our enemy. Fear is. And humanity has shown that even in the face of fear we can endure. We can resist. And together, the galaxy can survive. Some counselors nodded slowly, the weight of truth settling upon them. Others still hesitated, clinging to old ways and excuses. The Zirath's anger far from the council. In the heart of the Dominion, Overlord Zir roared in fury. One ship, one human ship had shattered their fleets and humiliated their empire. This is unacceptable, he bellowed. His 4 eyes blazed with rage. They defy the Dominion. They show the galaxy that we are not invincible. Gather every fleet. Send everything we have. Crush Earth. Crush the Valiant. Leave no survivors. Zir's generals bowed in fear. Even they had never seen a victory like this, not from an enemy of such small size. The humiliation burned like a fire they could not extinguish. The plan was simple. Total war. The Dominion would strike harder than ever before, showing the galaxy that defiance would cost everything. Preparing the fleet back on the Valiant. Captain Ward knew the signs. The Dominion would return. He had faced impossible odds before, and he would face them again. But he also knew that humanity's story was now bigger than one ship. We are no longer just defending Earth, he told his crew. We are showing the galaxy what it means to stand, what it means to resist, what it means to fight when everyone else has surrendered. The crew nodded. Engineers, Gunners and officers prepared for the next attack. Shields were reinforced. Weapons were upgraded. Emergency drills ran constantly. Chief Engineer Harper wiped grease from her hands and looked at Ward. "She's ready, Captain." "The Valiant is ready." Ward gave a small nod. "Then let's make sure the galaxy knows that humanity does not back down." Sending the message, Ward decided it was time. Humanity would not just fight in secret. They would tell the galaxy directly. He activated the comm array, broadcasting a message to every planet, every settlement, every fleet that could receive it. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the UNS Valiant." His voice echoed across the stars. "We have faced the Zeraf Dominion and survived. We have destroyed their ships, and we will fight again if we must. Let this be a message to every being who lives in fear. You are not powerless. You can resist. You can endure. Humanity does not surrender." The message traveled far, reaching distant systems and hidden corners of the galaxy. Species that had lived under oppression for generations heard it and trembled with hope. For the first time, whispers of rebellion began to grow, louder reactions across the galaxy. On the mining world of Kralis 4, a group of enslaved aliens huddled in the tunnels. They listened to the human message broadcast from hidden frequencies. "Did you hear that?" one of them asked, wide-eyed. "One ship against the Dominion, and they survived?" Another whispered. "Maybe. We can fight too. Maybe we can be free." On the council world of Veratus, diplomats debated openly. "If humans can stand against the Dominion," one said, "we may have a chance. Perhaps we have been wrong to surrender so easily." Even smugglers and pirates in the Outer Rim felt a spark of respect. The humans were not just warriors, they were symbols, and symbols, in a galaxy ruled by fear, where dangerous, the Dominion strikes again. The Zerath were not idle. They had seen their pride shattered. They had lost ships, commanders, and honor. And worst of all, the galaxy had seen it too. Overlord Zir ordered the fleet to assemble. Every vessel capable of flight, every weapon ready, every soldier trained for war. They would return to Earth with fire, fury, and death. Thousands of ships gathered at the edge of known space, forming an unstoppable armada. The Dominion planned to annihilate humanity once and for all, to erase the Valiant and burn Earth to ashes. But Captain Ward and his crew were ready. The battle preparations. Inside the Valiant, the crew worked tirelessly. Engineers reinforced the ship's hull. Gunners recalibrated weapons. The bridge hummed with activity. Every officer knew the stakes. This was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a battle for hope itself. "Damage report," Ward asked. Lieutenant Patel replied. "Hull integrity at 90% after last battle. Shields reinforced. Weapons systems at full capacity. Crew is ready, Captain." Ward nodded. "Good. The Dominion believes we are weak. Let's show them the truth. Humanity does not surrender." The words echoed through the ship. Every crew member felt the weight of responsibility, not just for themselves, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Rallying allies. The broadcast had done more than inspire hope. It had rallied allies. Some of the older council members who had previously ignored humanity now sent fleets to support Earth. Small groups of ships, long in hiding, began to join the humans in preparation for the coming storm. Captain Ward studied the reports. Though the reinforcements were small, every ship counted. "We may be outnumbered," he said, "but we are not alone, and that will make all the difference." The crew cheered quietly. Hope was a strange thing, but it could fuel courage stronger than any weapon. The calm. Before the storm, for a brief moment, Earth watched in silence. Humans waited, knowing the Dominion would return. Families hugged tightly. Soldiers checked weapons. Engineers maintained defenses. Every eye looked to the stars, waiting. On the Valiant, the crew prepared their stations. Captain Ward walked along the deck, speaking to his soldiers. "This is not just a battle for survival," he said. "It is a battle for the galaxy's soul. Remember why we fight. Remember who we are. We are human, and we do not surrender. The base. Words settled over the crew like a shield stronger than metal, a beacon of defiance. As the Valiant waited, a new truth spread across the galaxy. Humanity had not just survived. They had defied the Dominion. The message was clear to all oppressed worlds. Resistance was possible. On distant planets, rebels and freedom fighters prepared. On occupied colonies, hidden groups sharpened weapons and made plans. Humanity's defiance was a spark in the darkness, a beacon showing that even the smallest force could resist. The Dominion had ruled through fear. But now hope had begun to burn. The coming storm. The fleet of the Zerath would not wait long. Thousands of ships gathered, ready to strike Earth. The Armada moved closer, their engines glowing like deadly stars. War was coming. But the Valiant was ready. Its shields hummed. Its guns glowed with energy. Its crew, exhausted but determined, waited for the command. Captain Ward stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the enemy lines in the distance. "We will hold," he said simply. "We will fight. And the galaxy will remember that humanity does not surrender." As the first volleys of the next battle approached, the Valiant stood alone, scarred, proud, and unbroken. The void of space was alive with tension. The UNS Valiant hovered at the edge of the Sol system, its scarred hull gleaming in the sunlight. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, watching the incoming storm. 1,000 ships of the Zerath Dominion, moving like a tidal wave ready to crush Earth. The crew moved efficiently, their hands steady on consoles, their eyes sharp. Weeks of preparation, months of training, and years of expectation had led to this moment. Ward spoke calmly, though the weight of responsibility pressed down on him. "This is it, the fight of our lives, and we will not falter." The crew nodded. Fear existed, but it was tempered with resolve. They were human. They did not surrender. The first strike. The Zerath fleet opened fire. Beams of energy streaked across the void. Missiles screamed toward the Valiant, and explosions lit the dark like new suns being born and dying in an instant. Shields flared bright against the first volleys. Sparks flew across the bridge as consoles shuddered from the impact. Crew members held tight, eyes focused. Lieutenant Patel shouted over the alarms. "Shields at 70%, hull holding, but they are concentrating fire on our front." Ward's voice cut through the chaos. "Return fire, target the lead cruisers." The Valiant's cannons roared. Energy beams tore through enemy formations. One cruiser exploded in a ball of fire, sending fragments into space. Another followed. The Dominion fleet wavered slightly, but their numbers were terrifying. Breaking through the enemy line, hours passed like minutes. The Valiant danced through the enemy fleet, dodging missiles and energy beams while delivering precise strikes. Each ship destroyed was a small victory, but the crew knew it was not enough. They needed more than skill. They needed to break the enemy's will. "Captain," Patel called, "their left flank is weak. If we push through, we can split their formation." Ward nodded. "Do it. All power to forward thrusters and main cannons. We cut their line." The Valiant surged forward. Ships collided with energy fire and debris, some retreating in confusion. For the first time, the Dominion began to falter under the force of one human ship. Inspiration. Across the galaxy, meanwhile, across distant systems, the human message and the image of the Valiant inspired hope. On occupied worlds, small fleets that had hidden in secret jumped into action. Some began attacks on Dominion supply lines. Others sent messages of rebellion to enslaved populations. On Veratis, the Council finally realized the power of humanity's defiance. Ambassadors convened emergency sessions, sending fleets to support Earth. It was small, but together with the Valiant, it could change the course of war. In dark cells of Dominion-occupied colonies, prisoners whispered, "If one human ship can defy them, perhaps we can too." Hope was a weapon, stronger than any laser or missile. The Dominion's desperation, Overlord Zir could not believe what was happening. His fleet, meant to crush Earth in one strike, was faltering. A single human ship had shattered centuries of Zerath pride. "This is impossible," he roared to his generals. "They should be dead. Every ship should be destroyed. How can one vessel hold against 1,000? Generals bowed, uneasy. Even their seasoned minds struggled to understand. Fear crept in, a feeling unknown and unwelcome. Sire's pride burned, but his fury only drove him to escalate the attack. Destroy everything, leave nothing, he ordered. But even with rage, his fleet faltered. Humanity's courage, their unity, and their will to survive were forces the Zirath had never faced. The turning point. In the middle of the battle, Ward made his move. The Valiant had endured the onslaught, its shields flickering but holding. He issued orders calmly and decisively. Deploy decoys. Hit their central command. Ships, focus fire on the Armada's core. We do not just fight, we win. The crew moved with precision. Missiles, drones, and decoys confused the enemy's sensors. The Valiant's main guns cut through the central fleet, striking the heart of the Zirath command formation. One flagship exploded in fire and metal. Another followed. Chaos erupted across the Dominion. Ships collided, formations broke, and the once impenetrable Armada began retreating. The turning point had come. Humanity's will. The Valiant continued forward, relentless. Captain Ward's voice was calm but firm. We fight for every life. We fight for every world the Dominion has threatened. Humanity stands, and we will not fall. Crew members shouted in unison as they fired weapons, dodged attacks, and repaired systems. Young Ensign Malik, only 19, adjusted a damaged turret and shouted, "For Earth!" Patrol drones flared as they destroyed incoming missiles. Engineers worked tirelessly in the engine room to keep the ship at peak speed. Every human aboard gave everything they had. It was not just a battle of firepower. It was a battle of spirit. The enemy's retreat. For the first time, a Zirath commander ordered a full retreat. Ships disengaged, energy beams ceasing, as thousands of vessels fled toward hyperspace. The Dominion had never retreated from a battle of this magnitude. The shame and fear were complete. On the Valiant. Cheers erupted. The crew had done it. They had faced 1,000 ships and emerged victorious. Ward did not cheer. He stood on the bridge, quiet but proud. We have won this battle, he said softly. But the war is not over. Earth and the galaxy. Celebrate back on Earth. Celebrations shook the cities. The news of victory spread through human colonies. People hugged, cheered, and cried. Humanity had survived against impossible odds. They had shown the galaxy that courage and determination could defy even the greatest empires. Across the stars, oppressed species took notice. Messages of rebellion and hope spread like wildfire. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion subjects believed they could resist. The humans had done more than fight. They had inspired a galaxy, a symbol of defiance. The Valiant, scarred and battered, became a symbol. Across the galaxy, species whispered its name, a single ship that had defied the invincible. Humans were no longer just newcomers. They were warriors, survivors, and leaders. Captain Ward addressed the crew on the bridge. Remember this day. We are humans. We are strong, not because of our weapons, but because we do not give up. Today we fought for ourselves, for Earth, and for every world that cannot fight. And we have shown the galaxy what it means to be human. The crew listened, their hearts filled with pride. The spark of rebellion. In the darkness of occupied systems, the spark of rebellion spread. Slaves rose up, hidden fleets moved into position, and messages of hope reached every corner of the galaxy. Humanity's courage had lit a fire that could not be extinguished. Even the mightiest empire could not snuff out hope. And the Zirath, once feared across the stars, now knew that the galaxy would never again bow in silence. A new era begins. The battle had been won, but humanity knew it was only the beginning. The Dominion would return. They would strike harder. But the galaxy was no longer silent. Humanity's defiance had changed everything. The Valiant floated among the wreckage, proud and unbroken. Captain Ward gazed at the stars. We have won, today, he said, but we fight for tomorrow. Humanity stands, and the galaxy will remember us, Across the stars, species began to rise. Armies prepared, alliances formed. The galaxy, once ruled by fear, now held hope. And at the center of it all, a single human ship had made the difference. The UNS Valiant had shattered the legend of invincibility. It had proven that courage, determination, and unity could defy even the greatest odds. Humanity had not just survived, they had begun a revolution.